The 1.2.0 patch was released last week, giving Civ players a chance to play Civ VII with a host of features that most fans of the series universally agree should have been included in the game from the very beginning. Despite developers including a host of tweaks and changes aimed at making life for players much less frustrating than it has been, these changes certainly make playing Civ VII a more enjoyable experience, but they do not strike at the core of what has made the newest iteration of the game such a disappointment for so many. Though it is a fun game, by now it is universally understood that Civilization has not lived up to the standards set by its predecessors. The best evidence for this is reflected in how many people are playing the game on the Steam platform, where Civ VII continues to trail both Civ VI and Civ V, which launched as far back as 2010. In this video, I will examine 6 mistakes developers at Firaxis made when designing Civ VII, and which I see as reasons why, overall, the initial release of Civ VII is a step back for the franchise. Welcome to Civilization Stories, where we explore alternatives to history through the lens of the world's most addictive video game. Sid Meier is famous for his rule of thirds when designing sequels to any game. He said that 33% of the game should be brand new, 33% should involve improving previous features, and the other 33% should remain the same. It's important to keep Sid's rule at the front of our thoughts as we go through my list, especially that 33% that should remain the same. What could be at dispute is what he meant by remain the same. For me, and for the purposes of this video, I view the 33% of the game that should remain the same to mean the core concepts that are sacrosanct, the part of the game that players cling to and attach to the name. They are the foundation upon which the game is based and are not to be tampered with. It is the other 66%, and that is a lot, that can be molded and transformed so long as the bedrock remains solid and familiar for players. I would argue that, likely unintentionally, developers unwittingly walked into the fundamental 33% and started moving chairs around, which is the biggest problem that players and fans of the game are having. So, where did they go wrong? First, they left out parts of the game knowing they could add them later. This is nothing too surprising. Most video games, like a film's cinematic release, have a very recognizable profit curve. There's a huge spike upon release and then sales dwindle over time. The longer that the game remains in the public consciousness, the longer developers can milk that teat. Providing downloadable content and continued support turns that downward slope into a ripple and a maximization of profits over time. From a business sense, it's a smooth move, but for fans of the Civilization series, it feels like a farmer trying to milk a dry udder. Though most fans are satisfied with their ROI and how much joy they have received playing the game, they have grown frustrated by clunky, half-assed designs that are bereft of obvious things that feel like they should come standard, rather than be hyped as features. Civ VII was egregious in this regard, and, as stated in the introduction, it is only now with the 1.2.0 patch, approaching 3 months since the release of the game, that we are seeing elements added and refined that now make it begin to approach the base-level experience that fans expect. Second, they underworked the potential of crises and age changes. Whereas age changes are a core mechanic in the game, crises can be toggled on or off. I plan to do videos on how both of these mechanics can be improved upon, but for the moment, both feel like half-assed attempts at flimsy ideas. The crisis mechanic feels like a boardroom idea that got pitched, people said, great, and then no one followed up with how to have it all make sense in the context of the game. So they had another roundtable, brainstormed a couple of ideas, said, that'll be fine, and moved on. It's an idea that just feels tacked on to frustrate the human player. It's a game mechanic for the masochistic. Age changes felt like a great idea when they were first announced. It is a game mechanic that is rife with opportunity to make the story interesting. Instead, what we got were sudden and abrupt endings to our games that seem to happen without warning whenever a civilization triggers the change. There's a short visual that says little more than, you're done, good job. And then the human player chooses a few attribute points, maybe renames their capital, and moves on only to see thousands of years elapse without a whisper as to what happened during those years. It all feels very underwhelming. If something that impactful is going to happen to the game to steer it into completely new directions, it should feel huge and important. It should feel historical. There are 1001 narrative events throughout the game that I never read because I only care about choosing the option that is right for me and how I am playing the game. But this is where the narrative team should have been given the chance to shine. Age changes had the opportunity to tell a completely unique version of history. Instead, players just limp into the next age with essentially the same map, a few new units, and few explanations. I really wish developers had spent more time here to make each of my game's histories feel tight and relatable. Instead, there is a disconnect, a vast chasm between the game and the history. Third, they streamlined the victory conditions. The more I play Civ, the more I am beginning to realize that having many paths to victory actually makes the game less interesting. Once upon a time, there were only two ways to win: defeat all of your rivals through military might, or send your spacecraft to Alpha Centauri. Those were the glory days because Civ felt like an open world that you lived in. You could take whatever circuitous route you wanted to get to the end. Oh, I forgot to mention the score victory. Those were heady days. Just keep playing until the end comes, and then we'll sort it out through a complex point system. Now, everything is about the quest. All of the steps you take along the path are about streamlining that quest and moving the legacy paths along faster than your opponents. In concept, I have nothing against the legacy paths or their relationship in each age to earning attribute points, but tying them to the victory conditions has made the game feel linear instead of open and circuitous like it used to. I rarely feel challenged playing Civ 7 and feel certain I will win every game on the highest difficulty without really trying. I never feel like I need to lean into the victory condition I had been planning all along in order to beat out the AI that was steamrolling to a different victory. Instead, I meander through doing a half-decent job at each of them, while eventually deciding if the one I'm furthest along in is the way I actually want to win. Usually it's not, so I delay as long as I can the end of the game, hoping to get the victory condition I want, but eventually retreat to the safety of the easy win so as not to let the AI escape with the victory because I dawdled, hoping to massage in the victory that I wanted. Fourth, developers mistook who their ideal avatar was. This is definitely more complicated to explain, and I'm sorry if I ruffle a few feathers, but I have to point out that the game is now currently played in a way that does not fully appeal to the players who previously bought older versions of the game. Players that have played Civilization since the early 90s are not going to live forever. Of course, it's important to design a game that will appeal to new players, and I can appreciate that the qualities that I enjoyed in a game might not seem appealing to gamers of the future. However, in the case of Civilization VII, I really feel that developers mistook what type of person the Civilization games have always been for. At the risk of painting with a very broad brush, what I imagine the developers were hoping the Civilization fanbase would look like in 2025 is this. But the truth is, the Civilization fanbase looks more like this. Don't get me wrong, I like the idea of a game being for everybody. I would love for everyone to love Civ as much as I do. There'd be more people to watch my videos, but not everybody loves what I love. I accept that. One of the complaints that I see constantly is that, for years, Civilization has been trending toward being a mobile game. For decades, Civ could only be played on PC because its mechanics were far too robust for consoles. Now, without barely batting an eyelash, Civ 7 launched on all platforms at the same time. Civ players want their game to be too robust for consoles. We're folks who enjoy scrolling through numbers and charts. We play games like Football Manager because statistics and results are more important to us than graphics and gameplay. We're anal retentive and keep a million facts in our heads at the same time. Call us the OCD crew. I don't ask for directions when I'm driving, and I certainly shouldn't need the Civilopedia to become a better player. That's what losing is for. But we are firmly in the everybody gets a ribbon age, and it's important that everyone is included and all colors are represented. The result is that the game is being coddled to account for all audiences. Now, I get that middle-aged white guys have had their way for the better part of, well, forever. And I do get enthusiastic about people taking an interest in history and video games, but I'm sorry to say that what made Civilization great in the first place was how it titillated the middle-aged white nerd in all of us. Now, what's happened is, instead of inviting everyone over to our side, a lot of the things that made the game so fun for so many of us, its openness, its complexity, its nuances, its frustrations, its tedium, were scrapped to make the game more streamlined for the casual gamer. After all, their money is just as good. The result is that so much of the things that we wanted, that core 33%, have been tampered with, and those of us that have been handing over our hard-earned wages for one more turn feel a bit left behind. And, in the end, that's the real tragedy, that the casual gamer is exactly that, casual. They're not hardcore, die-hard fans like us. So maybe they pick it up for a bit and then they lose interest, while us hardcore kids keep playing and piss and moan like the old men that we are that the game is not as good as it used to be. Fifth, they leaned into leaders and away from civilizations. Civilization specificity has grown with every iteration of the series. Civ games gained leader personalities as early as Civ 2, strengths and unique units in Civ 3, leader traits and unique units in Civ 4, unique abilities, units, and buildings in Civ 5, to unique abilities, units, personas, leader traits, tile improvements, and everything under the sun in Civ 6. In Civ 7, they have taken their idea of a unique path forward even further by uncoupling leaders from their civilizations. In early versions of the game, you chose your civilization and a leader came with it. It was really just a way to interact with the other civs. Now you choose a leader first. The civilizations you lead are secondary. Want to lead Greece into space? Sorry, can't happen. Greeks of antiquity, the height of their civilization, disappeared thousands of years ago. Sorry, Greece. I've been very vocal in other videos that I think civilization switching was a terrible road for Firaxis' developers to walk. Well, I'm doing it again. It is the most egregious assault on the core 33% of the game that should have remained the same. In this regard, instead of moving a few chairs around, they were like bulls in a china shop, trampling one of the fundamental principles upon which the game was based. In moments where I've been playing Civ VII and having fun, whether it's laying siege to an opponent's city, swapping policy cards, or planning my route down the tech tree, I always get my crash down to earth moment when I realize it's all about to end with an age change. My journey never feels complete like it did in older versions of the game. Finally, they prioritized innovation over tradition. Perhaps this idea permeates through all of the other ideas that I just mentioned. Perhaps it's my thesis, but I sense that there is a pervasive perception that if it's new, it's good. It's a bit like a fast food chain coming out with a new item for a limited time only. People are really only there for the fries that haven't changed in 50 years. Sure, KFC might have 100 items on the menu, but most people are still ordering traditional recipe. McRib all you like, the Big Mac is still the big seller. With Civ VII, in giving us the hot new product, in a few key ways, they took away the traditional recipe. They say that there is a cycle that each Civ game goes through where folks hate it upon release and eventually love the game after it matures and all of its DLCs are released, only to be skeptical of the next game when it releases until they love it, and so on. However, I do think it's foolhardy to believe that those who did not like the game at release and those who loved it by the time of the next release are the same people. I carried my disdain for Civ V all the way until the launch of Civ VI when I finally felt that I got my sequel to my much-loved Civ IV. I imagine the same will be true of Civ VII, and that I will only feel truly satisfied until Civilization VIII, and it's because of all of these points that I feel the developers whiffed on trying to be cute and showing off their ingenuity. As of today, you know what I think I would have preferred? Was if they released special editions of all of the old Civ games, with all of their old rule sets simply reskinned to run with better graphics on new machines. New Macs with the silicon chips can't run old Civ games. I'm this close to loading Boot Camp, just so I can play a round of Civ 4 again, or even some of the earlier games, because the shortcomings of Civ 7 have me feeling nostalgic and longing for the days of old when the vibe was a little more primitive and pure. Anyway, those are my 6 key things that the developers got wrong about Civ 7. Is there anything you think I missed? Do you agree with me, or am I way off? Thanks for watching, and hey, if you have a sec, if you like the videos I make, do that thing where you share this video or one of my other videos, leave a like or a comment, or better yet, subscribe to the channel. And as always, remember to keep playing and making your own civilization stories, your own amazing path through history, and I'll see you next time.